The Coral Route, Skyway to Oceania. I arrived at Suva with a little time to spare before I should board the flying boat on the teal coral route to Tahiti. Suva, with its technicolor sea, its vivid blue sky and emerald foliage, was smiling under a brilliant sun. I did a quick tour of some of my old haunts. At the grammar school, I was greeted by several of the children who remembered me from my last visit. I discussed the Fijian scene with some of them. Come on, what's your name?
Richard Jacob.
What are you going to tell us, Richard?
That mongooses, they're pests because...
In Fiji, my word, they are a pest. Go ahead.
And they eat chickens and take the eggs. When you want eggs to cook something, they run up into the fowl house and take anything out. All the eggs and small chickens. And
do you trap them at all, kill them?
Yes, you've got a sort of a box. Wire netting on top, and when they go in, they pull a wire, and the door comes down on top of them.
Do you eat?
In the box.
Yeah. Do you eat mongooses?
No.
You don't?
No.
All right, I'm sure you eat something that you trap here anyway. What's your name?
Alan Snowskull.
What are you going to tell us, Alan?
Well, mostly that how Becker has its call.
The which? The Becker. What's the Becker?
Well, bat.
Oh, the big flying fox.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Around home, when we go out shooting them, usually have Shanghais or catapults with ball bearings.
Are they pests too?
Well, actually eat your mangoes if you want them. And
eat the fruits too?
Well, I suppose so. Well, if there are none around and you want them to come around, the call is something like this.
And that brings them around?
Yes.
And then people destroy them?
Yes.
How wide are they on the wingspread?
About 2 or 3 feet.
3 feet? That's pretty good. Right, thank you. Oh. Hello, what's your name?
My name's Ian Thompson.
What are you going to tell us, Ian?
I'm going to tell you about what the flying fox tastes like.
What the flying fox tastes like? I knew we'd get something that we could eat soon. What does it taste like?
Tastes like something like fowl and got a strong smell. We usually roast them over the fire.
You like them?
No.
You have eaten them?
Yes.
When you've been a bad boy?
No.
Right, we won't give you any flying fox for tea. You didn't have flying fox for tea tonight, did you?
No.
Hello, what's your name?
Carl Bay.
And what are you going to tell us, Carl?
I'll tell us about how you catch a wild bush pigeon.
Go ahead.
Well, if you want to catch them by cage without wounding them, you get a box and you paint it about the color of the undergrowth, and you put a string over a nail, and you go and hide behind a bush. And when the wood pigeon eats a kind of a fruit off a tree, it gets very thirsty and has to go and find water. And we put some water inside the box, and it goes inside the box, mistaking it for a little water hole underneath the undergrowth. And when it goes in there, we see it go in, and we pull the string off the nail, and the door closes and the pigeon's caught, and then we come out and take it.
And then you, how many make a meal?
About 5.
And are they very nice?
Yes.
That evening, I returned to my hotel, the Grand Pacific, which is magnificently sited on the edge of the lagoon. The great lounge was full of guests waiting to go in to dinner. Suddenly, there was a scatter among the crowd. People were moving off in all directions, and 1 or 2 of the women were squealing as though in fear. The cause of it? A small 7-year-old boy named John Dicker, whose father was employed in the Suva branch of the Australia and New Zealand Bank. John looked around nonplussed. He didn't seem to have a friend in the place, and the broad smile on his face gave way to a look of dismay. Suddenly, he spotted me sitting on a couch on the other side of the lounge. I was smiling broadly. He had a friend at last. With a wide grin, he made straight for me. Every eye in the place was on us. The reason? John was carrying, coiled around his shoulders, a large, banded, black and white sea snake, a brilliant and fearsome-looking reptile. John supported the snake's wriggling head in his right hand, while his left hand held the tail portion. The fiery red forked tongue was flashing in and out. The creature, when subsequently measured by us, was 4 feet 6 inches in length. John, although an Australian boy, showed not the slightest fear of it. Nor did I, for although sea snakes, taken generally, are far more deadly than land snakes, this variety was harmless, and I recognized it at once. John sat himself down beside me. One of the Fijian porters approached us. His eyes were wide with apprehension. "Let it go, please, sir. You will have bad luck." Unseen by John, I nodded my head to reassure him. The Fijians believe that snakes of this particular species, which of course they know to be harmless, are old Fijian chieftains reincarnated, and therefore they would never dream of harming, let alone even touching one of them. I had my tape recorder with me and proceeded to plug the microphone into place. John seemed completely unaware of the fascinated stares from all directions as he caressed the coiling serpent. "You hold him," he said, bestowing a great favor on me. I picked up the snake, which was cold and clammy to the touch. Well, I wasn't afraid of the creature, but I remember thinking then, how ever could any adult person ever get to the stage of feeling affection for snakes and keeping them as pets? Publicity seekers, maybe. But perhaps that's not fair. Perhaps there is a responsive chord somewhere. I handed the snake back to John and held up the microphone. I'm not altogether sure that John realized just what was taking place.
"Look what I've got."
Oh, good gracious me, John, it's a sea snake. It must be 4'6" long. Good heavens above. Where did you get it?
Down the back of the hotel.
And have you been playing with it?
Yes.
And weren't you afraid?
No.
Why, look at its funny shape there. Look at the tail, John. Why is its tail flat like that?
Because it helps it to swim.
Oh, because it's a sea snake. Now, have you got a name for it yet?
No.
Why?
Because I don't know if it's a she or a he.
Oh, I see. Well, I can't help you there, John, but I think we'd better give it a name anyway and risk it. What do you think?
I'll call it Henry.
All right. John, we'll call it Henry, and if it turns out to be Henrietta, that'll be all right. You'll call it Henrietta, won't you?
Yes.
Now, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to make it a pet?
Yes.
You're going to play with it every day?
Yes.
And what are you going to keep it in?
A jar.
And where are you going to put it when you're home? Where are you going to put the jar with the snake? Outside?
Yes.
But what if it gets cold at night time, John? What are you going to do then?
Take it to bed with me.
I don't know. Do you think Mum would be pleased about that?
I don't know.
I don't think she'd mind somehow. What are you going to feed it on?
Little fish and crabs.
And where are you going to get those? Out? You fish them yourself?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And what were you doing with it when were you playing with it outside on the lawn?
Yes.
I could see the top of your head just over the balustrade there, but I couldn't see what you were doing. And what were you doing when you were playing with it?
Tickling it.
Did it laugh?
No.
I noticed, John, when you brought it, when you're carrying it along there just now, the people are running away everywhere. They're afraid of it. Are you not afraid of it at all?
No.
It's heavy to lift, isn't it?
Yes.
And do you think you're going to be able to keep it? What are you going to do? It's got to... will you be able to get seawater for it? What are you going to do about that?
I'll get some seawater.
And how often are you going to do that?
Once a day.
And you think that if you give it seawater once a day and you feed it little bits of fish and that, it'll grow up even to a bigger snake?
Yes.
And you're going to have a lot of fun with it, John, aren't you?
Yes.
Right, have we got anything else to say?
No.
Right, thanks, John, that's fine.
There remains just to tell what finally happened to the snake. I had scarcely finished interviewing John when Mrs. Dicker came into the lounge. John, full of enthusiasm, at once started to tell his mother about his plans for his new pet. Mrs. Dicker and I, between us, at last managed to dissuade him. We told John that the sea snake would be very lonely and sad if he was no longer able to see his brothers and sisters. That seemed to register with John, and before long, although crestfallen, he willingly made the great sacrifice. We took the snake out onto the lawn and watched it instinctively make for the water. It wriggled its way to the stony breastwork and plunged some 4 feet into the sea. For a few seconds, its head only was raised above the surface as it swam along in the pose of the traditional sea serpent, and then dived underneath and disappeared. The next morning, I arose early and drove to the busy airport to begin my journey.
Hurry up, Brian, or we'll be going without you.
Oh, sorry, I'm coming right away. Well, cheerio, chaps. See you all on my way back. Cheerio. I take my seat in the large Solent flying boat of Teal Airways.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Teal Coral route. Captain Shepherd has asked me to make the following announcements. We are about to depart for Samoa, and in a few minutes the engines will be started and we will taxi out to the takeoff area. During the flight, we will be serving lunch. Near each passenger chair on the aircraft is a service push button, which please use whenever you want during the flight to summon a member of the cabin staff. After takeoff, Captain Shepherd will give you further information about our flight. Thank you.
The engines have spun, and soon we are taxiing out into the lovely lagoon at La Fala Bay Suva, the starting point of the coral route to Tahiti. Nucalao Island, palm-shaded and tranquil, lies a short distance away, while beyond the reef, friendly little islands, veiled in distance, float on the horizon as unsubstantial as the cloud banks above them. Soon we are swinging along the coastline, turning northeast on the first hop of 702 miles to Apia. Below us are the jagged volcanic mountains of Viti Levu, falling away steeply into the vivid green coastal flats. From above, the countless coconut palms look like a kind of star-patterned carpet, fringed by the glorious coral colors of the lagoon: green, blue, red, yellow, brown, and purple. As the coast recedes, the eyes still linger on the coral-stained shores. Soon we are among the multitudinous islands of the Fiji group.
The island appearing on the port side is Ovala. The town is Levuka, which is the former capital of Fiji. It was originally the capital of a cannibal kingdom, and it was once said amongst mariners that leading lights were unnecessary in Levuka's harbour because it was so easy for ship's captains to navigate their way in by the line of gin bottles floating out to sea. Today, though, Levuka is a peaceful and attractive place.
Pretty mountainous, isn't it?
It is.
What's the size of Ovala?
8 miles by 7.
Not of much importance now.
Oh, yes, as a trade centre for the Inuit route. Strategically, it's of considerable importance. Fiji, of course, is the outpost for the defence of Australia and New Zealand, just as Honolulu is for the western coast of the United States.
They have a pretty good naval and air base at Suva.
Oh, yes. The harbour there is deep enough to hold a fleet, and the town lies right across the shipping lanes and air routes.
Ovala guards the North Passage.
Yes, the northeast to be exact. Kandavo Island guards the south.
Do we worry at all about this area?
Oh, yes, indeed. It's constantly patrolled by the RMZAF and the Navy. The larger islands are gradually left behind us. From now on, the flight takes on a dreamlike quality. Tiny coral islands glisten below us like sectioned agates against a background of deepest blue. We are now at full operational height, and consequently all outlines are sharpened, all colours accentuated, until their hues are almost unbelievable. I think of Cook and Bougainville and Wallace and Bligh of the Bounty, all of whom passed this way. We of the 20th century, sitting in comfort, see such beauties as these men never even imagined. Truly is this Skyway named the Coral Route.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Shepherd. We are now cruising at 8,000 feet. The weather ahead and in Samoa is good. We estimate to arrive over Samoa at 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, Samoa time. Samoa time is now 11 a.m. But because we cross the international date line, we leave Suva on Friday and arrive in Samoa on Thursday. Thank you.
I wonder what Samoa will be like. Have you been there?
Yes, I have. I can tell you that the 20-mile drive along the seacoast from the Teal Airport to Apia, where we stay the night, is one of the most beautiful drives of its type in the world.
You'll get a real cross-section of village life along that road. Everything is open to view. The homes have thatched roofs but no walls. If you're there late enough, you'll see them going to bed.
If you're there early enough, you'll see them getting up.
Are there many flowers?
A great many. Every home has a garden of some sort. The villages are very tidy and quite pretty.
What about bird life?
I'm afraid that will disappoint you. Birds are very scarce. You won't see any on the way to Apia.
Unless a few plover on the estuary. They come around at this time of the year.
Yes, you'll possibly see some plover, but nothing else. No sparrows, no doves. As a matter of fact, you usually have to go deep in the woodlands before you even see a bird at all.
How many species have you got?
Well, the book says 34. 16 are found nowhere else in the world. They have one remarkable bird, a link with the prehistoric past. It's called Mana Mea. It has teeth all along its bill.
Are there any animals?
Well, flying foxes, big fellows, rats, lizards, and a few harmless snakes.
Oh, well, Dad said harmless. The many tourists go to Samoa?
Well, it has a great tourist potential, but that side of it hasn't been developed much yet.
Well, the opportunity is there, I should say. The plane's been hit within 2 days of New Zealand.
That's so. It certainly has great possibilities, no doubt about that, but actually the service was established for quick communications with our island territories. But the tourist side of it, of course, would be pretty valuable too.
Approaching on the port side is Niufu, which is part of the Kingdom of Tonga and is also known as Tin Can Island. Owing to the difficulties of the anchorage, mail-bearing ships used to lie off the island and the mail was put overboard, buoyed up by sealed kerosene tins. The mail was collected well out to sea by a swimmer, himself buoyed up in 2 bamboo poles held under his arms. The swimmer, a Mr. Ramsey, swam out 118 times for the mail. A few years ago, this island was the scene of a sudden volcanic eruption, and Queen Charlotte, the reigning monarch of Tonga, ordered the islanders to leave their habitat for their own safety. Now, the only inhabitants are copper cutters.
There it is. It's in the Tongan group, isn't it?
Yes, on the outskirts. The main island, Tonga Tabu, is 400 miles away.
There must have been a terrific blowout on Tin Can.
Oh, there was. It wiped out practically the whole of the government headquarters and the villagers' homes and property.
How did they get the people off?
On the Martyra, she took the whole 1,300. That was only in 1946. I believe there's only a handful of natives there now, less than 20, copper gatherers.
Oh, by the way, why did they use a canoe to collect the mail?
The Pacific swell is too much for a canoe.
Quite a small island, isn't it?
Yes, about 3 miles by 3.5, I think. You know, it's rather strange that such a small place should have a unique bird. It's called a megapode. It lays a very large egg, which it just leaves in the sand for the sun to hatch.
Evidently Tonga, like the Samoan group, must have been isolated from a very remote period.
It would seem so.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching the Satupuala Airport, which is our lighting area in Western Samoa. At this airport, we disembark from the aircraft by launch, and light refreshments will be served in the terminal building. When we are free to leave the airport, you will be directed to the transport, which will take you to Apia, a drive of some 20 miles.
We arrive at the airport of Satupuala, which lies inside the coral reef. The sun is shining brilliantly, yet grey columns in the distant sky above Apia tell of a heavy downpour there. However, by the time we reach the town, the sun is shining brightly in a cloudless sky. Our pier, with its row of umbrella-like trees flanking the waterfront, is prettily situated along the shores of a bay. At the back of the town are high, irregularly shaped volcanic hills covered with dense bush. That evening there is plenty to interest us. A fish drive takes place in the bay. The watcher from a high tower on the beach spots the shoal. Soon after his signal to the fishermen, the beach is crowded with excited onlookers. The shoal is encircled and driven into the nets.
There's great excitement.
Yes, the girls are afraid that you're going to get your machine swamped.
We wish that.
The tide is rising.
Yes,
now.
well...
they're also afraid you're going to get your feet wet.
Yes, well now, the big fish they catch further out, don't they?
The big fish they get usually in deep water on the reef.
Yes, well now
An
I think...
entirely different type of fishing they indulge
Yes,
in.
I think we'll have to shift the gear because the tide's going to
I'm
chase
afraid
right
so.
over
In about 10 seconds it'll be right on you.
Thank you very much. It's most interesting.
I wandered along the waterfront to watch the building of a fishing boat. I was immediately approached by a number of children who requested that I take their photo. I interviewed one of them, Leiti Stefano, an intelligent-looking lad of about 12. He was simply dressed, just in a lava, and stood as straight as a sapling. You will notice his very careful phrasing and his precise pronunciation.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
What's your name?
My name is Leite Stefano.
And how old are you? Leiti, is that right?
Yes.
How old are you?
I am 12 years old.
Have you been swimming?
Yes. No.
Yes, no, make up your mind. No.
No.
What have you been
I
doing?
am just watching the men pulling the boat.
Pulling the boat in.
Yes.
That water looks lovely there, Leiti. Do you like swimming?
Yes. I like swimming very much.
You like fishing?
No. Because I don't know how to fish.
That's an answer I didn't expect from an island boy. Now, what do you like best of all?
I like to stay home to help my mother.
And what do you do when you stop home helping mother, Leiti?
I went fetching water to cook our food, gathering the firewood, cutting the grass.
Cutting the grass. Well, that sounds like quite a job. What games do you play?
I play football.
Any other?
And softball, baseball.
And what do you like best?
And I like football best.
Have you heard of our rugby players in New Zealand?
Yes, I heard about it.
And what did you hear?
I heard that it was the champion of the world.
That's splendid. You gave me the right answer that time, Leiti. Now, let me see. What do you call that skirt you're wearing?
We call it in Samoan, lava.
In Fiji, they call it a Sulu. It's something like that, but I don't think it wraps over. Does Sulu mean anything in Samoan, the word?
Yes. Two nouns. A small book like weekly news and...
That's the noun, a
yes.
noun. And it means a small book like the weekly news.
Yes. And another noun is called fire. And a verb is to tuck in and...
To tuck in like when you're tying your
yes.
lava.
Yes.
Oh, it's a noun and a verb.
Mm.
It's a Fijian word and it means quite a lot in Samoan. Are you going to visit New Zealand someday, Leiti?
I don't know, but I want to go to New Zealand.
Have you got anybody in New Zealand belonging to you?
Yes, my sister.
Oh, where's she?
At Nelson.
And what's she doing in New Zealand?
She went there to the university.
Is she a scholarship winner?
Yes. She was a scholarship.
That's very good. Well, I think now, just before we close, Lady Iti, you should send a message to your sister. Would you like to do that?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Mo po avai se te fan. Wo o tau talatu le nei afiafi. Na o se walo fatu mo o tua fine pele. Ia e lofa a maini tusi e vaso le o lo ilum. Lo walofa po avai se te fan. Ia wo uma na ipu na tofa le ite se te fan.
Thank you very much, Lady Iti, and I hope we'll soon see you in New Zealand.
The Coral Route, Skyway to Oceania. With the dawn, we are once more on our way. Passing through the villages beyond Apia, we see many a sleepyhead greeting the new day with a yawn and a stretch before ambling down to the streams and the sea to bathe. We arrive at the Teal airport of Satupuala and are soon aboard the aircraft. Our next touchdown is Aitutaki in the Cook Islands, 872 miles away.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our passengers who have joined the aircraft at Samoa. We are about to depart for Aitutaki in the Cook Islands. The approximate flying time will be 4 hours, and the weather ahead is good. Thank you.
We're really in historic waters now.
The route of the Great Migration.
Yes. The line of Maori ancestry can be traced clearly through the Cooks to Samoa or Tahiti.
And beyond. You can see it in the language. Maori can be understood quite easily in the Cooks.
With slight differences, it's the same tongue. Furthermore, should a Maori visit Tahiti and remember not to pronounce his K's, he can still be understood. They'll greet you there with Haere Mai, pure Maori.
You know, I quite envy these people. What a wonderfully free life they lead.
They do. But it wasn't always so. They've had a taste of the other.
You're talking of the Blue Laws?
Yes. They lasted for 50 years, well into the present century.
Blue laws? What were they?
The laws of the missionaries. Their intentions were good, but they carried things a bit too far.
I know that even white men and the cooks were forbidden to be out of doors after 8 o'clock at night on pain of a heavy fine.
Yes, that's nothing. The offences for which natives were fined would be incredible were they not recorded in official reports. In Rarotonga, for instance, a native who walked at dusk along the road with his sweetheart was obliged to carry a burning torch in his hand. And he was fined if he let it go out.
Oh, no.
Approaching on our port side is Palmerston Island, which was discovered by Captain Cook on the 16th of June, 1774, and it was named in honour of Lord Palmerston, one of the Lords of the Admiralty under which Cook served. Present-day marine charts are still based on the original charts of Captain Cook. One William Masters landed on the island in 1862 in the company of 2 women, each of whom bore him children. These offspring, through intermarriage, produced a population of 100. In 1892, Masters was granted a lease of the island by the British Crown, and he died in 1899. Palmerston is seldom touched by civilization, and a curious feature of its inhabitants is that as late as 1936 their speech was Elizabethan. The island has several times been hit by hurricanes. Thank you.
That's a remarkable story. Especially that bit about Elizabethan English.
Yes, Masters insisted that all the children at Palmerston should be taught to speak English. As a matter of fact, he forbade the use of the native tongue altogether.
Well, does it still hold today?
I believe so, from what I hear. It's a dialect of Gloucestershire.
I think that's extraordinary, when you consider the isolation.
And the natural inclination of a child to speak his mother's tongue. Look, you can get a good view from my window.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. It's tiny, isn't it?
1 square mile. Copra is the main crop.
It's very flat.
It is. I think the highest point's only about 20 feet.
Not too safe in a hurricane, I should say.
It isn't. As a matter of fact, they had 2 bad visitations. Everything was swept away. The people clung to the coconut palms on the 20-foot hill. I think a couple were drowned in the last one.
What was the effect on the people of Inton area?
Well, strangely enough, this was investigated later, and it was found that the absence of new blood apparently had no detrimental effect whatsoever.
Has there been any mixture in recent years?
Yes. A little new blood from Penryn, Manahiki, and Aitutaki. But for the most part, they're directly descended from the original family.
By the way, how long is the stop at Aitutaki?
About 2 hours, I think.
Time enough for a swim. With the prospect of a swim at Aitutaki, bags are opened in a general search for bathing suits. The weather report is good, and all are looking forward keenly to the short touchdown at the Akiami airport.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching Aitutaki, our lighting area in the Cook Islands. At this airport, we disembark by launch. We do not set foot in Aitutaki itself, but on the island of Akiami, where the Teal Rest House is on a very good swimming beach. Fresh fruit juices and other light refreshments are available in the rest house, and towels and soap are provided, and there are showering facilities. You can take short walks on the island, but we suggest you do not go far without checking your watch and ascertaining our exact embarkation time. Thank you.
Before us now is the gracefully curving bay of Akiami, with the main island of Aitutaki a little beyond. We come down inside the lagoon at Akiami, skimming across the coral until deeper water is reached. Here, the sea is a vivid milky green. 2 small islands are on either flank, and in front of us is a fine beach with its rest house sheltering beneath palms. The sea is tempting, but the little island is so beautiful that we all decide to investigate it and forego our swim. Here is what the children of the airport manager think of Akiami.
What's that on the ground?
That's a tape recorder. Have you seen one of those before?
No.
And how do you like Aitutaki?
Oh, it's good because...
Well, now, why? You tell me.
Because there's lots of sunshine and plenty of room to play, and there's always lots of fishing and swimming. And...
Did you enjoy your swim this morning? I saw you splashing there with your brother there. You seem to be having a good time.
Yes, I was swimming all morning.
Any crabs to bite your toes there?
No, there isn't.
Any fish?
Well, we splashed so much and giggled so much that
You frightened them all away?
that we frightened them all away.
And you really like being in Aitutaki?
Yes.
Good. Well, did you tell me your name?
My name is Elizabeth Dixon.
Mm-hmm. And where were you born, Elizabeth?
Oh, I can't quite remember.
I don't suppose you can, but I don't think probably it was Aitutaki. This is brother, is it? What's your name?
Peter.
And how do you like the place, Peter?
Oh, it's very nice. Nice and warm. Great change after New Zealand.
Yes, well, do you go to school in New Zealand?
Oh, yes, I've been at Nelson College.
I suppose Nelson was never like this.
No, Nelson was never like this.
Now, which do you prefer, being back in New Zealand or here in Aitutaki? That's a hard one, but you answer it.
No, that's not hard at all. I'd rather be here.
And why do you like it here, Peter?
Oh, my parents are here, and there's a lot of things to do, and fishing and swimming that you don't get in New Zealand.
And plenty of sunshine?
Oh, yes.
And do you go over to the other islands at all?
I live on the island, Aitutaki.
Oh, yes, this is not the main island, of course.
This is Akiami, where I'm now.
Akiami, yes, this is where the plane comes in. But
Have you a canoe?
Ah, yes, I've got a native outrigger canoe.
You can handle it well?
Oh, yes, I can sail it all right.
And what sort of a fisherman are you?
Oh, not bad. I do quite a bit of spear fishing here.
And you go underwater for that, then,
yes.
Of course. Yes, go on, you tell us. What do you want to say? Come on.
And one day, Peter and I went out on the reef, and it was very rough, and we caught 2 fish on the reef with my fishing rod.
With your fishing rod?
Yes.
And what were they, Peter?
Claw.
Big fellows?
No.
Oh, no. They weren't bad.
Do you ever get any really big fish?
They got a 360-pounder here in the passage not too long ago.
Who did?
4 Frenchmen were here. They were fishing here.
And what's about the biggest you've got, Peter?
86 pounds.
Oh, that's a whopper. Good eating?
Oh, yes, very nice.
How did you get it?
With a deadline. You put it out and set it with an anchor on it.
Describe the fish to us, what it was like, what its colour was, and how it is to eat.
It's much the same as New Zealand snapper. It's long and with a large head and silver. And
Like a cuckoo.
Like a what?
Sort of like a cuckoo.
And what have you caught? You must have caught something here sometime. Come on, tell me what you've caught.
Nothing.
Nothing?
When it was very rough on the reef, when we caught the fish, Peter got it, and I held the rod and lifted it up while he caught the line and
pulled it in. Well, you caught the fish. You caught that fish just as much as Peter did.
And the fish swallowed it so far down that it was hard for Peter and I to get it out of its throat.
And did you fetch the fish home and eat it?
No, we cooked it and gave it to the cat.
We left Aitutaki after a song by a small group of Cook Islanders.
All you chaps coming on the plane with us?
All of us.
Are you coming on the plane?
Yes, sir.
I see those instruments there and somebody's strumming one. Could I have a song, do you think?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Thanks very much. Away you go.
Okay. So long, little while.
We are now on the last leg of our journey. Papeete is in a direct line 678 miles away. The weather all through has been perfect, and as our longest hop was just 872 miles, the flight did not drag at any stage.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown. Are you quite comfortable?
Yes, thanks very much.
Enjoying your flight?
Very much indeed. I'm finding it most interesting.
Anything I can get you at all?
No, I think I've got everything, thanks.
The captain's compliments. Would you care for a drink?
Yes, I think I might. Have you a whiskey and water? Thank you.
After an appetizing lunch of cold chicken and salad, served with sauterne, we fall to discussing our journey's end, the fabled island of Tahiti. We're now somewhat keyed up with excitement. Some few of the passengers have already been to Tahiti, but the rest, including myself, have merely read about it.
I think more has been written on Tahiti than on many countries of Europe.
Well, you know, the fabled perfect land, free from all restraint, was supposed by the philosophers to be in the South Seas.
Yes, the myth of the noble savage.
Yes. Hitherto he'd been seen only in the mind, but when Wallace discovered Tahiti, here he was in actual fact. The writers and philosophers went mad.
Some of the explorers, too. Bougainville actually took a nave France, and Cook took one to England.
Oh, I read about that. They were both presented at court. Everyone seemed to go quite crazy over them.
Crazy isn't the word. It was delirium. Philosophers wrote books in which the poor Tahitians posed as severe judges of society. That they couldn't speak a word of any language of their own didn't seem to matter.
I can remember the cinemas during the 20s and 30s. They really took up the old theme in quite a big way.
Even today, the spring doesn't seem to want to dry up. It's incredible how easily even a mediocre book on Tahiti sells. I saw in Paris 2 years ago how a lecturer, quite commonplace, was able to film the Playall Hall several times simply by presenting a film in colour accompanied by a lecture on Tahiti.
There is one thing everyone agrees on, though. The legend has at least some substance.
Yes, the place seems to have something, whatever it is.
Well, we shall soon find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching Papiti's Tahiti terminal of the Teal Coral route, and on the port side you will see the island of Maria, which is approximately 15 miles from Papiti. We hope you have enjoyed your flight on the Teal Coral route, and the company values your patronage, and we hope we may again meet you in flight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and our warmest wishes for a happy holiday or homecoming in Tahiti.
As we approach, the shattered peaks of the island of Maria tear at the sky with their fantastic needle points and razor edges. Lush growth fills the valleys and struggles to climb the precipitous heights. This is a strange land indeed, rendered more exotic and mysterious by the soft veiling of white mist. We cross over Maria, and just a few miles away lies Tahiti, with its volcanic ridges and sharp crags. We come down inside the lagoon and are then transported by launch to the landing stage right in the heart of Papiti. I'm standing in a roped-off area leading to the customhouse. Well, what a reception. The arrival of the Teal flying boat is evidently an event, and all Papete, it seems, is assembled to welcome us. Several very lovely girls are greeting the passengers in turn, kissing them on both cheeks, and hanging leis of frangipani, tiri Tahiti, and other flowers around their necks. At the moment I'm... Excuse me, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, madame. Merci beaucoup. Well, I've just had the treatment, and I'm now sporting a lei around my neck and a wreath of flowers around my brow.
Hello, Brian. If your mother could only see you now.
Yes, I know. And by the way, what time is it?
Throw away your watch. You will not need it here. There is only one place better than Tahiti, and you have to die to get there.
Right here, someplace.
I was soon to find out how true were the old man's first few words. Time does not matter in Tahiti. There is little to measure it by. There is no newspaper. Tahiti, if not by the world forgot, seems to have forgotten the world. Having booked in at my hotel and freshened up, I set out to see Papete's chief attraction, its fascinating waterfront. From the breastwork, one obtains a breathtaking view across the water to the island of Maria. Schooners, ketchers, private yachts, outriggers constantly go and come. I saw the Vega, a huge luxury yacht on a regular run. She once belonged to one of the Rockefellers. I move along the waterfront. In front of me is a schooner from Raiatea unloading its strange cargo. There are cattle, pigs, brilliant orange-red fairies, a kind of cooking banana, live cormorants, baby turtles in earthenware containers, copra, pineapples, bananas. The waterfront workers, all wearing wreaths of flowers around their heads, go in to unload the ship with a laugh or a song. This doesn't seem like work at all. Surely it's a game. Next, I come to a rugged-looking fishing vessel where I swear I can hear New Zealand accents. Sure enough, the craft is the Richard and John belonging to Captain Hyam, a New Zealander from Gisborne. I am soon aboard and having a word with captain and crew.
Captain Hyam, what was this trip all about?
Oh, I flew over to England to buy a boat for my son and another young lad out there to go fishing in, and
decided to bring it out yourself?
Yes, and decided to fetch it out myself. And the crew, I met them all casually in England, different parts, and they all wanted to come back to New Zealand and Australia, and...
Yes, well, could you tell me when and where, or rather where, you met some of them?
Well, the first one I met in a chemist shop, Graham Sinell.
Yeah.
And the next one, Lawrence Carey, I met him on Tim's barge.
Yes.
And he wanted to come too. So the next two were Lawrence Duncan and Jeff Cooper. I met Lawrence more or less by appointment because I knew him from Napier. He has been a fisherman.
Yes.
And he's the chief engineer on the boat.
Now, how about hurricanes? Did you have to do any hurricane dodging, or did you get whacked by one, or what?
We ran close to 5 of them, but missed to Gain, our navigator. Well, tell you the story then.
Good. Hello, Mr. Gain. Where are you from?
I'm from Sydney, actually.
And what's your story about hurricanes and gales and all the rest of it?
Well, we actually went through the Caribbean more or less in the middle of the hurricane season. The first one was Connie, I think. She was around the Caribbean when we were in the Atlantic. We altered course south and missed her altogether. From Bermuda to Jamaica, we met no less than 4, all of which we had frequent radio reports of, and by altering course and heaving to, as the case may be, we managed to dodge the lot of them and had quite a safe passage down.
Was there any heaving to by the crew, by the way, on the trip?
Oh, yes, there was quite a bit of that, particularly in Kingston, where we had a very wizard time.
Oh, I see, the after effects. All right, did you have any sort of a send-off?
Yes, New Lynn, they told us that it was the biggest send-off that any small boat had ever got from that place. But I think Mr. Sinell will tell you the story there.
Hello, Mr. Snell. Where are you from?
I'm from Devonport, Auckland, New Zealand.
Kiwi, splendid.
Yeah.
What happened at the send-off? Mind you don't have to tell everything.
No. Well, it was 100 years since one other ship sailed from there to New Zealand. And the locals, made a particularly big thing of it. Captain Hyam had been there for a month, 2 months, and they really had a great opinion of them down there.
Were they all fisher folk?
Yes, all fisher folk there. And some of them actually appeared in the film Jamaica Inn, if you recall that, with Charles Lawton.
Oh, yes. Oh, in that, what is the little port again?
New Lynn.
New Lynn.
Just down from Penzance.
I see. And were any of the cast by any chance there?
Yes, there were 1 or 2 that actually appeared in the film.
Yes. And what was it was a real fisherman's send-off, right?
Yes, it was. It's absolutely a fishing port, and we had practically the town turned out.
Oh, that's splendid. Now, here's an important question, I think. Who did the cooking?
Laurie Carey. You'll find him across there, Australia.
Oh, hello, Australia. Laurie, what was the second
Laurie
name?
Carey.
Did you have any problems in cooking, Laurie?
No, not too many. The variety was naturally a bit limited on a trip like this.
Yes.
But
the customers were satisfied?
They're all satisfied, yeah.
Did you do any cooking before you took this on?
No, I have never.
Can opener came out of Australia.
Yes, one thing we wouldn't get lost, they'd be able to try us by the cans.
Oh, I see. That's your trail across the oceans. I see.
Yeah.
Well, they all look pretty fit on it to me, so I think that says a devil of a lot for the cook. Did you? Were you able to supplement the larder en route?
Yes. I think I'll hand you over to the engineer.
Oh, now what the devil does the engineer know about supplementing the larder? All right, we'll hear.
Well,
what's your name, sir?
Duncan, Laurie Duncan.
And where are you from?
Napier.
Napier.
Yeah.
Oh, another Kiwi, splendid. Well, what did you do to supplement the larder?
Well, we had a few spinners out, towing spinners, and the funny part about it, being a fisherman, and we should catch some more, but we towed for 10,000 miles and caught 3 fish, and one was a very skinny barracuda, which we had to throw away straight away.
That'll give the fisher boys back home a bit of a laugh, I should say. What about were there any other methods of adding to the rider?
The bosun, Mr. Cooper, he's the boy for that. He's all my batteries. Ask him.
Where are you from, Mr. Cooper?
From Newcastle, Australia. I think what he was talking about there was that seeing as he couldn't catch any fish in the normal way, we used to turn a few lights on for an hour or so, and the flying fish, although they weren't very big, they used to be very, very tasty, very sweet. They'd fly across the boat and land into the sail, being attracted by the light, and of course we'd have 20, 30 in the morning for breakfast without even trying.
And good eating.
My word, very good eating, yeah.
Well, look, there is one question I would like an answer from somebody. How do you like Tahiti? Or what sort of a time did you have last night?
Well, a whale of a time, but I'm afraid I'm starting to feel it myself now.
Well, your difficulties in getting us up this morning, I think you got the answer on
In other words, a good time was had by all.
Right.
And you reckon Tahiti is a lovely place?
Oh, yes, very nice indeed.
Thank you very much. The Coral Route, Skyway to Oceania. The day after my arrival at Papeete, I had time to take stock of my surroundings and to sort out my impressions. From my hotel window, I could see the Pacific swell breaking over the reef in white foam, the flower of the wave, as the Tahitians so poetically describe it. Tahiti, a French colony, is completely surrounded by a coral reef and is very broken and mountainous. It's some 30 miles long and 18 miles at its widest point. The population of about 25,000 is composed mainly of Tahitians, Chinese, and French. The climate is delightful. Although rather hot at some times of the year, it is invariably cool at night. The Tahitians are amongst the finest looking of the Polynesian race. The charm of most of the young women is enhanced by the gaily colored floral parius, a kind of flared skirt, and by the fact that their hair is simply brushed out to full length. In one or both ears a blossom is worn. The lustrous black tresses fall well below the waistline, giving an air of soft femininity that no other hairstyle could possibly achieve. Tahiti is a land of color. If every flower were plucked from the countryside, the description would still apply, for the trees and shrubs vie with the flowers every inch of the way. There are leaves which are deep carmine, vivid yellow, henna, blue, pink, or various shades of brown. One fine morning, I made my way to the center of the town. I am standing at the corner of Rue Gauguin and Boulevard Bir Hakeim in the heart of Papeete. I look about me on a rambling town of ramshackle wooden buildings and modern concrete structures. As you can hear, there is quite considerable traffic ranging from modern motor cars of French, English, and American makes down to occasional long box-like wagons drawn by decrepit horses so thin that you could count every rib. There are many push bicycles, but the most noticeable feature is the large number of power-assisted cycles. They're buzzing about everywhere, ridden by as many women as men. Tahiti is ideal for this type of transport, as the main roads have no hills, there is no wind or cold, and the weather is almost invariably fine. On the corner opposite me are a number of women sitting on the pavement making wreaths and leis of frangipani, tiri Tahiti, and hibiscus. They will have been at this work most of the night to have ready fresh garlands for arrivals and departures, and for social occasions and merrymaking. Flowers are used profusely. Many of the recipients on festive occasions are so hung with garlands that only the face is left uncovered. Looking up Rue Gauguin, I gazed straight into Chinatown, complete with shop signs in Chinese characters. Some of the older women are wearing traditional Chinese dress, black jackets with high collars and long black trousers. It's interesting to note that a Chinese, even though born in Tahiti, has no claim to French citizenship as of right. And although the Chinese are subject to certain other disabilities, they have obtained an increasing grip on the commerce of the island. The easygoing Tahitians, who are not fond of work, are no match for them. The time is 10:30 a.m. In another half hour, the shops will close and the streets will be almost deserted. Siesta lasts from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., when most of the people retire to take a nap. Even the children playing on the beaches will mute their voices so as not to disturb the older folk. One of the most interesting sights of Papeete is its famous market. Early one morning, I set out with a resident of the town for the large, oblong market building in the heart of the business area.
Come, I'll show you the flowers.
They're magnificent blooms, aren't they? What an array.
Yes, but come and smell them.
Well, this rose has no scent at all.
They don't in this country. That's the unfortunate part about flowers here.
Except, of course, some of them, the frangipanis and their own, frangipani and tiri tahiti.
But the frangipani are a tropical flower.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean. Well, the temperate flowers are...
No, wait. Come over here. I'm going to show you this frangipani over here. Look how beautiful it is.
Oh, yes.
You see? Half the petal yellow, half the petal purple. Look at that one. Yes. White. Snow white. The other one, yellow center and the cream outside.
Yes, there's one cream and
there's
red.
The red one, look.
Yes, they're beautiful.
They are, and they do smell nice.
Yes. I noticed the temperate flowers are very well represented here. I can see roses, hydrangeas, zinnias.
Roses don't smell at all.
No. Yes, I did. Dahlias, daisies. What's that flower? Is that a gardenia?
Which one?
That one, the white one.
That's the camellia, I think. At least I call it the camellia. It smells beautifully. It's like a huge white rose.
Yes, it's a beautiful bloom. And look, little dog daisies.
Dog daisies. Well, that's a field daisy. Any child could... Oh, excuse me. Any child could tell you that, mister.
I'll let that go.
Do you know the origin of the frangipani, by the way?
I don't.
Well, the frangipani, according to what I have learned from some of the botanical magazines, they take, let me see, it's Corsica. There were some Counts frangipani, and they brought it into Europe, the flower. And now the natives over here, they use it for the funeral wreath, mostly, just as the Mexicans would use the marigold, because it happens to be more abundant over here than it would be in another country. And they tell you that it always brings you luck if you plant it in your yard. So you will notice in this country so many people have it all over in their yards, all the different colors.
Yes, it really scents the whole island. You can smell it at sea.
It does.
Actually.
It's not heavy as the Tiara Tahiti. It's not a heavy smell, not a headachy smell, what I mean.
Mm.
But it is a beautiful flower, and I think it will grow in some parts of England if it's not too cold.
Yes. Now, shall we have a look at the vegetables?
No, yes, wait a minute. You come over here first. I want to show you something remarkable in fruit. Fantastic, rather. You will see how nature takes care of things that are not in good condition. Look at that banana.
Yes.
All right. I don't remember its name. Maybe we can ask one of these native women here. But look at it. See over here how it's torn?
Yes. Oh, good heavens.
Look, it's all patched.
It's been stitched.
It's been stitched, exactly. It's been stitched. Look, on this side,
but
it's
look,
a
there's
straight.
Another stitching across in the other direction there.
Yes, just look this one.
Yes.
It goes around.
Very
look
neat.
Look at this one.
Mm.
Do you suppose she stitched it?
Well, I don't know. It's very neat stitching. Don't tell me nature did it. I refuse to believe it.
Well, she wouldn't do it because she'd have to sell them at 100 francs each. Wait, we'll ask her about these bananas. No, she doesn't know. But look, do you suppose really it's stitched by nature like that for some particular reason? Why should nature take the trouble to stitch it in that particular way? Look, it says even as though a woman, a seamstress, were to do it at so much per day. Look, each particular stitch is put just exactly as it should be. Why is that? Why do you suppose nature takes that trouble?
Well, to mend the fruit, obviously, but how nature does it is another puzzle.
Well, don't you think a botanist would have a wonderful time finding out?
We must invite one of them here to have a look at the banana that stitches itself up when it bursts.
You won't believe it. When I showed it, when I was pointing it out to the natives, they said, well, this is the first time I ever saw it.
That's so.
It's a fact. It really is a fact.
What's under your eye you don't see.
They just never happened to notice it, and I was telling some of the photographers, come, I will take you to the market, and you've got to photograph that, because it is worthwhile. It is unusual, it is fantastic, it is incredible.
Yes.
And I think it would be a very good idea for a photographer or a painter to paint that. And then if the fruit could be taken, and if the skin could be preserved some way to show that it really was so.
Good. Now, the vegetables over here, eh? Around this corner.
Yes, no, this way. Let's go this way.
Good.
Here are the vegetables. Quite a variety, aren't they?
Yes, I notice carrots and turnips seem to do awfully well here.
But you don't notice potatoes and onions.
But I've had them at the hotel.
Yes, but she bought them at the store. They're all imported.
All imported, I see. Look at the celery there. That's rather spindly, isn't it?
Yes, it smells, but it grows too fast. It cannot possibly acquire the whiteness that it does in other countries. But come, I will show you the taros.
Yes.
Do you see that?
Yes.
You see what a beautiful leaf it has?
Yes.
It really is an ornamental plant as well as a practical plant. And do you know what happens if you plant them in the receptacle, several of them together?
I can't imagine.
Well, you plant, say, about 10 or 15. And about 6 o'clock in the evening, you notice they stand up. You've probably
the leaf
noticed.
is upright, yes.
All right. All of them will turn down. And then one of them will stand straight up on guard.
Well, the others will sort of go to sleep for the night.
The other ones will go to sleep, literally, for the night, and that one will stand up straight like that.
Just one?
Just one plant.
Yes.
If there are 2 leaves on it, or 3 leaves, or 4 leaves. And I've took the trouble to get up in the middle of the night to find out if they do stand up like that. That one was always on guard, but not all of the time. The following week, it takes about 5 or 6 days. The following week, there's another one. Then amongst them, there was one with a little black stand. He was rather spindly, possibly a different species. But one week, he was standing guard.
And they rotated standing guard?
They rotated standing guard, and it's incredible unless you really try it out.
Oh.
Try it out in the receptacle, plant them.
Yes, I noticed quite a pile there of eggplant and taro roots and sweet potatoes.
Yes, and everything.
Look, what's those little round green things there?
Oh, that's not a vegetable. It's a love apple.
Oh?
Uh-huh. Now, you may or may not believe it. Possibly when you were a young man, you should have remembered your novel
I'm
reading.
not so old now. Go on with you. Well, all right, carry on.
Anyway, you take those apples. Here, taste one.
All right.
Rather nice, isn't it?
No, not particularly. Go ahead.
Oh, you're used to temperate country fruits. Anyway, do you notice the smell in your... Can you sort of smell it now?
Yes, my word. Roses.
Roses.
Yeah.
Well, for a couple of hours now, possibly 2 or 3 hours, it depends on the person, I suppose, your mouth will be smelling from roses.
Now, do they
That's a literal fact.
Now, do they make practical use of that here, the men and women?
I'm a woman. How should I know what the men do? I go out to get them whenever I can. I plant them. The plant is rather nice. The tree is small, but the flower, the fruit is very, very nice, really.
Now,
it's worthwhile having in the yard if you have it. And it's worthwhile. It blooms, starts blooming in September, and then it bears around November and December.
Yes. Now, do we go to the fish now, I think?
Oh, yes, come.
We took a shortcut between piles of taro. When we arrived at the large fish section, I could scarcely believe my eyes. The day was hot, and one would have imagined that the place would have been full of flies. I looked along the stalls. It was amazing. There wasn't a fly to be seen anywhere, not one. This was something I had seen nowhere else in the world. I thought back for a moment, and suddenly it dawned on me. But for the mosquitoes in the forest, I couldn't remember having seen a fly at all in Tahiti. I subsequently found out that the island is free of flies, except for 2 or 3 days after the arrival of a ship. Those flies that come ashore are soon disposed of by a tiny red ant.
Other fish. Did you ever see such a blaze of colors? Rainbows, many of them together.
They're magnificent, aren't they? I say nature never commits an artistic error. Just look here. Look at this little fellow. Yellow combined with black.
Yes, look. This one has vertical lines, and this one has horizontal. Speckled.
Brown, and brown with yellow.
Yes.
See how beautiful it is.
And the fiery red one. Isn't that a lovely one?
Lovely thing, isn't it?
That would be nice served with a great big bunch of green vegetables of some sort together.
Now this deep, vivid blue.
Royal blue.
Royal blue.
Royal blue. Almost even darker than royal blue.
Yes, and there's orange.
There is orange.
And look over there.
Look at this lovely green.
It's almost as if the sun is shining on the moss, isn't
yes.
it? As if it's internally
in a little
lit.
glade, yes. It's a lovely thing.
Beautiful.
And this blood red, but oh, look at his horrible eyes. They have a mean look, don't they?
Some of them with beaks, all sorts of shapes. What are those little... They must be turtle eggs, are they? There.
Yes, look. Small ones, large ones. They're a funny-looking color, aren't they?
Yes, without shells.
And without shells. Do they remain like that, I wonder? And look at this. It's meat. The turtle meat.
Oh,
every color. Green, red, purple, yellow. It looks kind of gooey. I don't think I would like to eat.
There's the big head now. Is that head just on show there, or would somebody buy it for cooking? The big head of the turtle.
Oh, yes, the Tahitians will buy it. The Chinese will buy it. And I suppose the French, the white people. But look at its shell. Isn't that beautiful?
It
now,
is.
cleaned and varnished, wouldn't that make a magnificent ornament for the house?
Now, look, I was going to ask you about these little fish. They're just like what we call whitebait in New Zealand.
No, that's Ina.
Ina, almost the same name in New Zealand, Ina.
Is it? Well, you see, Ina, if you go to a river where it goes into the sea, and if there is any kind of a wall there or a rock, these Inas will climb right on it, and you can literally scoop them up with your hands. Just as many of them as you want. They're there literally by the millions. It's incredible, and it's if you do not see it.
They don't run in rivers. We catch them, we net them in New Zealand.
No. In September and October, and I suppose it will be up to around the 15th of December. You can just scoop them up with your hands, with your bare hands. You can walk in them. They just come up on the walls and on the rocks.
Now, do you eat them with batter?
Yes. You make a.
Are they nice?
You make a. Yes, they are. You make a seasoned batter. You fry them. They're very good. I like them very much.
Yes, I notice a lot of the fish, including these little ina, or ina as you call them, they're all alive. Is that usual?
Oh, yes. My goodness, you have to kill your food just before you eat it, you know.
You really get it fresh.
Oh, you really get it fresh. And then once in a while you wonder how the dickens you're going to kill it, and you take a kid that you see on the road, and you tell him, here, I'll give you a franc. Kill this for me. And he look at you with such disgust and contempt. It makes you wonder if it wasn't worthwhile to kill it yourself. No, you buy fish over here very, very often in the small fish, and it is alive. Crabs, shrimps. See the shrimps over here? You know how we catch the shrimps in this country?
No.
We make a coconut basket, put some grated coconut inside, put it in the pool, and let the shrimp do the rest.
You just come and carry your basket home?
Literally.
Yes.
And the shrimps are alive, and you can keep them alive, of course, by putting a little water in there and a little salt, because they do like just a little bit of salt, brackish water.
The following day, I made my way down to the waterfront in time to watch the berthing of the Waterman, a Dutch ship carrying immigrants to Australia and New Zealand. The usual crowd of Tahitians were there to greet the ship. When the Dutch settlers came ashore, the Tahitians were no less interested in them than the Dutch were in the Tahitians. The Dutch were immediately surrounded by the dark-eyed, black-haired Tahitians who seemed fascinated at the pale skin and tow hair of the visitors. The two races appeared to get on famously together, including the children, and this in spite of the language difficulty. I spoke to one of the young Dutchmen.
Hello, did you have a good trip?
Yes, we did.
Where are you going to? Australia or New Zealand?
Oh, we are going to Australia, sir.
Mm-hmm. Many going to New Zealand on ship?
Well, I think about 200.
Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with yourself now?
Well, I'll have a look around the town and... But, sir, do you know where I can buy some fruit?
Yes. I think the best place would be at the market. That usually starts at about 6:30. They sell everything else out by this time, but the fruit is left over. That's about the best place to go. We'll go along there now. It's just about 200 yards away.
I see.
Do you want to go now?
Yes, let's go.
Good.
We made our way to the market and walked through the fruit section where many mangoes, pineapples, bananas, and limes were still unsold. Fruit is very cheap in Tahiti. Large baskets of fruit can be bought for a mere 10 francs, approximately a shilling, and that includes the basket.
Look, you may be interested in these. They make a very, very nice drink. You just slice them in two with a knife and squeeze them into a glass, add a little sugar and water, and you've got a really beautiful drink. If you like some of those, you can get the whole basket full, I think, probably for 10 francs. 10 francs.
Yes, but they look so green.
You feel they're not ripe?
Yes, I saw it. Well, our lemons in Holland, they are big and yellow.
Oh, yes. Well, these are not lemons. They're limes. They're a different fruit.
I never heard of it.
Yes, well, I think they're actually nicer than lemons. As a matter of fact, they even cook fruit raw in that. They get the lime juice out of the fresh fruit, put the raw fish in, and it cooks it without boiling it or anything else. Well, anyway, I think that you get this whole basket full for about 10 francs.
Well, but don't you have no oranges in here?
Well, I'm afraid that's a sad story. Actually, there used to be plenty of oranges in Tahiti, but the Tahitians, live in a very bounteous land that everything comes so easily, and they got into the bad habit of when they went to gather the orange of just dragging a branch off the tree, you see. It did two things. It got the oranges for them very quickly, and also they could just carry the branch home with the oranges attached over their shoulder. Well, you can imagine what happened to the orange growers.
Yes, they ruined them, of course.
Oh, they did. They absolutely ruined them, and now there are no longer any oranges to speak of in Tahiti. You'll never see them in the market. But if you go way back in the mountains where the people haven't been, I believe there are oranges still growing, but it doesn't pay the people to go up there and cut them all that way down. That's the story of the oranges. You'll want some bananas, won't you?
Yes, I would like some.
Well, now, here are two different varieties, you see. This one here is a smaller banana.
Yeah.
I'd advise you to take that. It's very sweet. It tastes just as nice as the larger one, but it lasts longer.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and but I think I better take the green ones.
Well, you'll be in Australia in what, 6 days?
Well, in New Zealand we'll be, about 7 or 8 days.
7 or 8 days. Well, they will last as they are, completely fresh for 7 or 8 days. I wouldn't advise you to take the green ones.
I see.
Actually, these smaller bananas, even when the skin goes quite black, inside they're firm and sweet. So I advise you to take these. I think these are very cheap. There's quite a pile of them, as you can see.
Yes.
Come bien, madame. Come bien. Very well. Deep 10 francs again.
Yes.
That's very
all the
cheap.
same.
Far cheaper than you'll
Yes.
ever see them in Australia or New Zealand.
No, I don't think so.
Do you have these?
Yes, I'll leave them.
Let's see.
That evening, I set out for a ramble through the town. A walk at night through the streets of Papeete is of never-failing interest. There are many bars, as they are called. They're really estaminets where liquor and dancing are catered for. Quinn's Tahitian Hut is famous throughout the Pacific. Other well-known bars are Au Col Bleu and Moulin Rouge. At such places, many of the merrymakers wear wreaths around their heads. The streets are crowded with all nationalities. There is no colour question whatsoever in Tahiti, and all races freely intermingle. There are gossiping matrons, roving groups of flirting Tahitian girls, who far outnumber the men, big-eyed children running to and fro or gazing wistfully at the billboards outside the cinemas, sailors from French warships in their spotless white uniforms, Chinese in traditional dress or wearing the parayus of the Tahitians, and everywhere are brightly lit stalls selling refreshments and sweets. The Coral Route, Skyway to Oceania. One day, while walking along the waterfront at Papeete, I saw a fishing craft named Happy Return edging into the breastwork. In the bow was a tall, blond, good-looking young man with an English accent, except when he spoke in schoolbook French to some of the Tahitians who were helping him to secure his mooring rope. Obviously a new arrival, I was curious to know who he was and what was the purpose of his voyage. When he came ashore, I spoke to him, and was surprised to find out he was a New Zealander, and not, as I thought, an Englishman. I recorded an interview with him, but before playing it to you, I think I should jump ahead a bit and tell you who he was and what subsequently happened. His name, first of all, T. St. H. Ackland. I saw much of Mr. Ackland during my stay in Tahiti. I left the island before him, and shortly after my return to New Zealand, I read in the newspapers that his fine little ship, which he had brought out safely all the way from England, and on which he had based so many hopes, had been wrecked on the reef shortly after he left Papeete on his way to New Zealand. Here is the interview taken with Mr. Ackland shortly after his arrival in Papeete.
How came you out this way in a small yacht, Mr. Ackland?
I went to England to the UK to visit my mother. I do this about every 5 years. And while there, I stumbled in Highbridge across an ex-Royal National lifeboat, rescue lifeboat, which I thought would be ideal as a fishing boat for the Hokitika Bar, Southwestland.
And what are the dimensions of the boat?
This boat is 45 feet long. It's a motor sailor, and its registered tonnage 14 tons, gross 22.
Have you had any mechanical trouble?
No. When I bought the vessel, it had a very old 19-year-old engine in it, and before going across the world, we decided to strip it down, and we found a fault, and we bought a new one in a great hurry during the railway strike. I've had no trouble at all with the new engine.
Now, I suppose you have radio, of course, to get weather reports and such like.
I have 2 radios on board, a Pi Dolphin transmitter and a very good shortwave receiver. The latter I consider essential for ocean traveling to get weather reports and time signals.
Now, I understand, Mr. Ackland, that you're an amateur. How about navigation?
Well, I've never done any navigation before this. Not out of sight of land, that is. I bought some books on it before sailing from the UK, and of course this thing is more practice than theory if you're reasonably good at mathematics. And I made my first blue laying off I had the true course, and I added the magnetic correction the wrong way. I had intended to go direct to Madeira non-stop without sighting land and to pass 50 miles seaward of the island of Oceana off the coast of France.
So, go ahead.
So the first night out, to my horror, we spotted a lighthouse on the starboard bow, and this we recognized from the flashes as the Oceana light. Not only was I not to westward of it, but I was obviously heading for France itself, so we changed course smartly and passed the island of Oceana in the early dawn.
So there's no such thing as navigation in 10 easy lessons?
No, there isn't.
What about your crew? How many have you?
I've got 4 at the present time. I had 5 when I left England, and 1 transferred to another yacht in Balboa. And when I got here, it was necessary to do various repairs and things, and the rest of the crew went on to New Zealand by plane. And I've now got a new crew of 3 others, making 4 all told, to go on to NZ.
Now, what sort of blokes are they? Have they had any experience, or who are they?
Well, one of them, Paul Linwell, he and another American wrecked their yacht on the Marquesas. And he's coming on to Auckland with me. And the other 2 are both Tahitian-born. One is English, that's his registered, his father was English, and he's registered as an Englishman. And the other is a native boy, Bernard Tiroa. And this boy has been a fisherman here, and I hope be able to keep him in New Zealand as a sponsored immigrant for about 2 years if I can get away with it.
Now, about Bernard, what language does he speak? Just Tahitian?
Tahitian and French. He knows very little English. The other boy, Irvin Walker, fortunately knows French, Tahitian and English, all 3 very well. And he can write all 3. He, incidentally, will be the engineer on the boat between here and Auckland.
Now, is sailing a yacht across the world all glamour? Sometimes we've been led almost to believe it with those books, that have been written about it.
Well, the long ocean voyages, long distance between ports, is very trying to any crew, I think. And one of the troubles in these people who try and sail around the world in small yachts is usually they haven't got too much worldly money and maybe limited means.
Like yourself.
Yes. And if time, it's possible that time may mean money to them and they may be in a hurry. The cost of living in foreign ports is much higher than you expect, and also repairs and one thing and another. The vessel costs a lot more than you think it will do. And I think it would have been much cheaper had I taken this particular sized vessel out on the back of a freighter.
Just loaded her on a freighter?
Just loaded her on a freighter. In fact, I think any vessel that can be lifted off by the floating crane in either Wellington, Auckland or Littleton would be better taken that way.
Yes, so you would say that you wouldn't advise anybody to put £50 in their pocket and set out across the world?
Definitely not. I'm afraid they'd be very sorry unless It's not easy to work in foreign ports, you must remember. It's just very difficult indeed.
And the cost of living, of course, in those various places you touch down must be pretty bad at times.
Yes, it's much more than you expect, although after you've been in place a while, you find the cheaper places to eat. You have to, or you run out of cash altogether.
And then you've got to have repairs and paintings and all that sort of thing, don't you? And harbour dues and all the rest of it?
Well, if your vessel's registered as a yacht, you may get away, escape the harbour dues, but you certainly got to do the repairs. My vessel, I had quite a lot done to it before I left Falmouth, and it was in very good order when we left Falmouth, but it still needs repairs after long ocean passages.
Yes. Well, it remains just to wish you the best of luck in your crossing from here to New Zealand. You're going direct, are you?
I'm going direct to Auckland, and I hope to be home in Hokitika for Christmas.
Well, good luck and bon voyage, Mr. Ackland.
Well, thanks a lot.
After my interview with Mr. Ackland, he completed his entry formalities, and we went for a walk through the shopping area. One can buy almost anything in Tahiti. Food is, generally speaking, dear. Butter is brought from Australia and New Zealand and is either tinned or deep frozen. The deep freeze butter works out at about 8 shillings a pound. Some local meat is slaughtered, but except for the pork, it's not up to the standard of the imported Australian and New Zealand beef and mutton, which is invariably bought by those who can afford it. This imported meat is dear. There is no fresh milk, but the tin variety is always available. Tea is there for the tourist, but French drinking habits prevail in the restaurants, and the invariable beverages at meals are coffee or red wine, the vin ordinaire. This red wine is imported from France and is surprisingly cheap. We passed the Fougera Hotel, which is in the heart of Papeete. This hotel is of the ordinary European type, but the other two major hotels, the Tropique and the Royal Tahiti, are Tahitian. In the latter two, one lives in one of the attached thatch-roof Tahitian bungalows, of which there are several, all magnificently sited on the edge of the lagoon. These bungalows have every convenience, including showers and baths. One goes up to the central building for meals, where there is a bar and dance floor. As in many tropical places, much use is made of tinned foods in order to obtain variety. We saw many of the natives, with the money to spare, forsaking their traditional foods and purchasing the modern tin varieties. They like this food, and naturally, inclined to be lazy, they find that a tin opener saves a lot of trouble. No doubt this change in food habits has its effect on the teeth of the people, but there are other causes too, as I discovered when talking to a visiting dentist, whom we met over a cup of coffee in one of the restaurants.
I did hear that you're of the dental profession. You're not out here professionally, of course, are you?
No, not at all.
Have you made any observations about the island dental condition of the people?
Yes, we've noticed that particularly the Tahitians have unfortunately many missing teeth, undoubtedly due to caries and as they grow older due to periodontal involvement.
Now, what would you say was the reason? That they have a beautiful country, they have lots of fruit, sunshine, and plenty of the things that should go to make good teeth. Why?
Well, unfortunately, undoubtedly, it's civilization. I mean, the refined carbohydrate food, the lack of care and interest, possibly, and due to the we might say lack of minerals in the water. It's a very soft water, volcanic origin. There might not be too many minerals, so the teeth would be more caries susceptible, possibly.
Yes. You would describe the condition generally as pretty bad, wouldn't you?
Generally, yes. The population has very bad teeth.
I understand they're starting to tackle the problem, though.
Yes, they're. Fortunately, we spoke to a dentist in Tahiti, and he mentioned that they're starting the public education program, plus the fact of the mobile units that are going to the back country area in order to take care of some of the dental problem in the school children.
Yes. Now, just a final thing. Could you give us your name, Doctor, and where you're from?
Yes, Stan Phillips from Pasadena, California.
And bon voyage. I'll be with you some of the way.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
One beautifully sunny morning, I set out with a Mr. Porcelano, aged 76, an Italian-born American who has resided in Tahiti for the last 40 years. With him was his part-Tahitian grandson, a beautiful little boy aged 8. We made our way up the lovely Faltoa Valley with its many flowering trees, en route for the Cascade, one of the sights of Tahiti.
Now, before we go up and see this wonderful waterfall, supposed to be one of the wonders of Tahiti, let's have a little lunch.
Good, that's just what I feel like.
Well, now then, I got some canned meat, some bread, and some cheese, and canned beer.
Good.
And then after we get through, we'll climb up to see this famous waterfall.
By the way, where's little Tama? I haven't seen him around for...
Well, he's down there, down the river.
Oh, there he is, poised above the water like a heron with his wings spread. Hello, Tama! Come on, come and eat.
After lunch, we crossed the stream and began the climb through the tropical jungle. Sharp volcanic ridges, heavily forested, flanked either side of the valley, while ahead were the fantastic jagged peaks and needle points which are so characteristic of Tahiti.
How are you making out? Oh, not so bad for an old fellow. Oh. I say, what's this little round nut here like a walnut? I noticed lots of them about.
Yes, well, that's what we call, we white people, we call it candle nut. But the native call it tiairi. They used it to light up their house when before the white man came here.
Yes. Can you eat it?
Oh, well, no, it makes you sick when you eat it. It's kind of slightly poisoned.
Yes.
But when it's baked in the native oven, it's good food for chickens and pigs.
As we continued the climb, the air became heavily scented. I recognized the scent, but did not recognize the plant from which it came. Little Tama, who could not speak English, picked up one of the plant runners. His grandfather called him. You will recognize the words if you know any Maori.
Oh, Harimai. Yay, moi. He's calling the little boy Tamu, and did you get one word, Harimai? It's exactly the same as it is in Maori. Mr. Porcelano, I've been noticing these green shoots streaking through the grass there, you see, and the shrubs, and running up the trees in places. What is it?
It's vanilla. But this is vanilla abandoned because nobody came up here, and naturally it falls down and nobody takes care of it.
It still bears, though.
But not so well. Not so well because it has to be inoculated.
Oh, I see. I'll tell you a thing that struck me, not only here, but right throughout Tahiti, the absence of birds.
Yes, well, you see, they imported the bird here to destroy the rats, and instead of destroying the rat, it's been destroying all the birds.
I see. There was a parakeet somebody was telling me was there. Now, he was quite valuable, wasn't he?
Yes, he used to spread the fei.
Ah, that's right, the fei.
Yes.
Well, now, the fei wouldn't grow unless the parakeet ate it, and then the seed passed through it, and then the fei would germinate.
Really, it grew by shoots, but the parakeet used to eat it and digest the seeds and spread it.
Yes.
Instead of growing in bunches, they'd spread out all over the place.
And now you've got to grow the fei by putting in shoots.
Yes, dig in shoots and plant them, replant them here and there.
The seed, in other words, will not germinate unless it went through that little parakeet.
That's right.
Well, now, is there any part of the island, perhaps remote, that would still prove that is so?
Well, it's proven by the fact that they found fei in places where it is impossible for men to reach them.
Yes.
In cracks in the mountain, in ravines, where men would not be so foolish to plant them there, where it would be impossible to gather the fruits.
And that's what happens when you disturb
That's it.
Disturb the balance of nature. Hello, Tamu. I thought we nearly lost you. Come on. Where am I, Tamu?
By now, the jungle vegetation seemed to be of infinite variety. We passed an old deserted hut with the sign on the front door, Tabu. This word formerly had superstitious associations, and Europeans were always sure that their property would not be touched if the sign Tabu was displayed on it. even though the natives knew that the word was merely being used for the purpose. However, those days have long since passed, and vandals had made a sorry mess of the shack. I thought I recognized a plant on the other side of the track.
That looks like coffee over there,
Well, it is, but it's abandoned and it's grown wild now. It doesn't bear very much.
That's a fine tree just there.
Oh, that's a pandanus tree. The tree that Pierre Loti thought it was a pineapple tree.
A pineapple tree, don't tell me.
Yes. Well, you see, writers should know what he's writing about. He should be well informed about the things he writes.
Did Pierre Loti, the writer on Tahiti, say that was a pineapple tree?
Yes. He thought he had a nice nap on a pineapple tree.
And this is the actual tree?
That's the actual tree.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the setting. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Pierre Loti could perhaps have been forgiven for mistaking the pandanus for a pineapple. The pineapple, of course, is a small plant, normally sending up only one fruit, whereas the pandanus grows into a sizable tree carrying many fruits. These fruits, seen at a distance of a few yards, look, to the unpracticed eye, exactly like green, unripe pineapples. They are, however, quite inedible. The jungle, which up to now had kept to the conventional colours, now really began to spread itself. There were no flowers, but the foliage was in every colour of the rainbow. Thousands of multicoloured plants made a glorious display.
Look at all these multicoloured velvety plants. Thousands of them around everywhere, Mr. Porcelano. You know, back home in New Zealand, we grow those very, very carefully in pots or in hothouses. Then these little beads, little red bead-like things, what are they, seeds?
They're seeds. They're like beans, and they use them to make
necklaces?
Necklaces, yes.
Now, which path do we take from here?
Well, I really am a little confused, because when I came here 25 years ago, it was different. Look, that tree wasn't there.
Well, it's only about 20 years old.
Well, that's right.
How will we go on a bit? Which down or up?
Oh, well, we better continue on this path. I'm pretty sure that if we keep in this side of the river, we're bound to get there.
The track was now rising fairly sharply. I looked with amazement at my elderly companion, who didn't seem in the least distressed.
Gosh, this is a pretty stiff climb, Mr. Porcelano.
Yes, well, 25 years ago, I ran all the way up, and I had no toes on my feet.
You have no toes on either feet? How come?
I had them frozen.
That's before you came to Tahiti?
Before I came to Tahiti.
And you ran the whole way up, and you can go up at this pace at 76.
Yes. Well, I can run now, too.
There he is. There he is, running up. There. Hello. Oh, believe it or not, there he goes, bent forward like a monkey, running the whole way up there. Hello. You're doing all right. Not bad at all. I couldn't do it myself, I can tell you that.
Bent well forward, and with his arms hanging like a gorilla, he streaked up the steep mountainside for about 25 yards. Apparently, as a young man, he had won a dare that he wouldn't ride between two American cities on the top of a locomotive in the middle of the winter. He won the dare, but lost all his toes to a severe frostbite.
There's quite a lot of maiden hair fern here, Mr. Porcelano. We know it pretty well in New Zealand.
Do the mosquito bother you?
Yes, I'm afraid they do in the forest here. They make a noise like tiny jet bombers.
That's right.
Although they don't bother me down in the town, in Papeete at all, but they're pretty bad here.
Yes, well, here in the forest, naturally, you're bound to have mosquitoes.
By the way, did I hear a rooster just this moment crowing?
Yes, there is quite a few wild fowls here, and wild goats, and wild pigs, and plenty of rats.
My portable tape recorder by now seemed to weigh a ton. I paused to wipe the sweat from my brow.
Well, shall we call a halt for a moment? I think I could use this flat stone for a few moments to sit on. All right. Mr. Porcelano, there are large areas like this in Tahiti. Could they ever be developed?
Oh, I believe it could. In fact, there was a Chilean way up above the falls who planted quite a lot of coffee, expecting to gather about 20 tons a year, but he couldn't get any help.
Why is that? Is labor difficult?
Well, the natives, you know, they really don't need to work. That's why they call them lazy, but they are not lazy. They simply don't need to work. Why work when they don't need to?
Yes, that's so. Has Tahiti ever been prospected for minerals?
No, not that I know, but I believe there is minerals here because I found stones that when you expose them to the sun, they sparkle like diamonds. But I also find heavy stones, 3 or 4 times heavier than the ordinary stone. Now, I don't know what that can be, but to me it looks like some mineral. The color of the stone is grayish like lead.
Yes.
And here I have a stone in my hand. I show you. You see how it sparkles?
Oh, put it in the sun. Look at it glinting.
Yes. Well, I don't know what it is, but to me, they might be tiny diamonds.
Yes. I wonder would they be of any commercial value, but it's glinting all over, isn't it?
Well, too small to be.
Where did you pick that one up?
Well, I picked it up building a wall here. I had picked up a lot of stones, and I found this.
That's most interesting.
Yes.
When we had rested a little, we continued the climb. For a while, my guide seemed to be a little uncertain of himself.
Now I know. I remember this stream. So now you sit here, and I'll go ahead.
Yes.
When I find the falls, then I call you.
Good. That's if the mosquitoes have left any of me over.
Yeah. All right.
I waited for a considerable time. He didn't return, nor did I hear a shout from him. I was beginning to be concerned when in the dim distance I could hear him calling.
Hello! Okay, we're coming!
I followed as best I could in the direction where I judged him to be. It was quite a while before I could definitely place him by the growing proximity of his shouts. Eventually, I found him on the lip of the crater, looking straight across at the cascade. It was a breathtaking sight.
Well, here it is. Now look at it.
Gosh, what a magnificent sight. Look at that ribbon of water there.
Yes.
Now, what height would you think that would be?
Oh, around 750 feet.
It falls right from the lip of the crater there, right down into that beautiful little pool at the bottom. Is there another way of approaching this? We're about halfway up here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Looking straight across the chasm at it. You can come up down to the bottom pool.
Yes.
Do people swim there?
Yes, people swim there, and I don't know what else could they do there. But it's a much better sight than above here. Now you see those 3 points over there?
Right on the top, three needle-pointed mountains there, yes.
Yes, that's part of the diadem.
And why is it called diadem?
Well, because it looks like a king's crown.
Yes. And look at the sheer face of that crater there. What a terrific blowout it must have been years ago.
You see the scratching of the lava coming up.
Yes, and it's all burnt and reddened and blackened there. But I notice how the forest is clipped right down almost anywhere where something will grow, you'll find it growing. It's lush and beautiful in spite of all that. Well, Mr. Porcelano, I think that's one of the most beautiful sights that I've seen in Tahiti.
Well, that's why Ottawa Valley is known all over the world as a wonder. One of the wonders of the world.
It's really magnificent.
The Coral Route, Skyway to Oceania.
One day I drove some 2 miles out of Papeete to the home of a well-known author, William Stone. I found Mr. Stone's home, like that of most European settlers in Tahiti, exquisitely situated on the beach. The house, surrounded on 3 sides by palms, was in the Tahitian idiom with modifications. A well-kept lawn and flower garden added grace and dignity. I interviewed Mr. Stone as we sat in his large, open-fronted living room, looking out across a blaze of flowers to the lagoon beyond.
Could you tell us a little about yourself, Mr. Stone? Were you a novelist before you came to the islands?
No, before coming here, I'd written short fiction, but no books. Like many another author, I passed through a number of jobs and professions on the way to writing. At one time, I taught in a school for boys. In the late 20s, I was a flying instructor and held an airline pilot's license. After that, I practiced law for several years. And it was from the law that I turned at last to letters.
Now, could you give us the titles of some of your better-known books?
Gladly. The Ship of Flame, published about 10 years ago, was a novel of ancient Polynesia based on the legend of a great folk hero by the name of Rata. This was followed by Tahiti Landfall, a book of personal experience, which was filmed by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer under the title of Pagan Love Song. The novel Two Came by Sea, which appeared in 1953, was a book club selection in the States and went into numerous foreign translations. Somewhat to my surprise, it was also a Book of the Month selection in the Union of South Africa. My most recent novel, Castles in the Sand, was published this year and hasn't yet had an English edition.
Apparently, Tahiti has served you well as a workshop. I've been wondering, Mr. Stone, how you came to settle here.
Well, Mr. Bryan, that's a question I've myself often asked of others who've come here to make their homes. And most often the reply is that it was something they'd read which lured them to these shores. Something of Stevenson, perhaps, or Melville, or Rupert Brooke. In my own case, it was a book by the English writer Alec Waugh that turned my eyes in this direction. The book was called Hot Countries. Not, I may say, the most accurate description of Tahiti's wonderfully mild climate. But in it, Waugh described in beguiling detail this island's delights, and he spoke also of the marvelous swimming to be found in the lagoons. I happened at the time to be recovering from a severe illness, and my doctor had prescribed constant swimming as the best way to regain strength. So I came to give it a try of 3 or 4 months, without the faintest suspicion that I'd promptly and permanently succumbed to Tahiti's spell.
Just how long has it been since Tahiti first wove its spell around you?
I find it hard to realize, because the one insidious thing about the South Seas is the way time flies. But since I first stepped off the old Union Line of New Zealand ship Mount Ganui, 20 years have passed.
And in that time, have you noticed any great change in the island?
Why, there have been changes, of course. I doubt that any place on Earth in the decades since the war has remained utterly stationary. But the differences in Tahiti, it seems to me, are largely superficial ones. The little port town of Papeete, a very sleepy place indeed when I first saw it, is now quite bustling with cars and motorbikes. Occasionally you'll see a native canoe propelled by a buzzing outboard motor rather than by a sail of graceful palm fronds. But despite some of these innovations, these signs of questionable progress, the island as a whole, I think, is as charming and fascinating as it ever was. In the country districts, the pareo or sarong is still the preferred garment. The dwellings are still thatch and bamboo. Most important of all, the native Tahitian is still the friendly, cheerful, song and laughter-loving chap that he was in the days of Captains Cook and Bligh.
And what about the daughters of Tahiti?
The vahinis, as you must have seen, remain the ravishing creatures they've always been described. And, as always, too, the visitor will find them waiting to bedeck him with wreaths of jasmine and frangipani the moment he arrives.
Speaking of the visitors, do you recommend any particular time of the year for their coming, or is the climate always as pleasant as this?
Well, there's really little change throughout the year. A little bit more rain is likely in January and February. The coolest weather of all in June and July. But I think you can safely say to your friends, come anytime. But perhaps the one thing you should be warned, Mr. O'Brien. Possibly you should warn your friends and take warning yourself. It's said, you know, that if a man stays so long as 6 months in Tahiti, he becomes captive to its beauty and can never break away. So, if you mean to remain faithful to your lovely New Zealand, perhaps you'd better take your leave of us before that length of time has passed.
Well, thanks, Mr. Stone. I'll try to do so, but not, I assure you, without regret. Thanks very much.
After the interview, I wandered down to the beach. Passing the Royal Tahiti Hotel, I met a Wellingtonian, Dave Stoddart. We adjourned to the cafe bar of the hotel, a beautiful place making much use of bamboo for decoration. It was siesta time, and the place was empty, except for the Tahitian barmaid singing to herself behind the bar.
How do you like this setup, Brian?
By Jove, it's lovely, isn't it? Ah, singing behind the bar, too. What's the song, David, you know?
No, I don't know the name of that one.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. I suppose it doesn't matter about the drink, as long as we listen to this. This is far nicer.
Very pleasant welcome.
Yes, isn't it? A wonderful welcome. Hello, is that Tahitian?
Oh, yes.
Tahitian?
Sure.
Dance?
Very good.
This is worth the whole trip, David.
I think so. Oh, yes.
Oh,
Very
Dad,
good
how do
indeed.
you do, Dad?
I'm very well.
Good.
I wish I knew the song. Can I do this hula one?
I left the hotel for the beach. On the way, I ran into a group of small Tahitian children who were loaded up with ripe mangoes. Some of the children were dressed in shorts. Some hadn't bothered about such trifles as clothes. Their large, lustrous eyes twinkled roguishly as they understood what I wanted them to do. I asked them to drop their loads and dance for me. But before that, one of them, a lad of about 7, sidled up to the microphone. He started to sing. Although there is no commercial radio in Tahiti, believe it or not, he went into a singing commercial about Tahiti's biggest store. The percussion orchestra which accompanied the dancing comprised the side of a shed, a tin, and a piece of wood.
Bonjour, mes enfants. Comment vous appelez-vous?
Vitu.
Vitu, et vous?
Tiro.
Et vous?
Teddy. Coco.
Coco. Coco. Coco. Pour boire?
No.
Oui. Charles.
Charles.
Oh, Charles. Et vous?
Ordu.
Ordu.
Tahil.
Vous chantez. Qui chante pour moi? Vous? Allez.
Aline, le plus grand magasin. Aline, le plus paraïsien. Aline, le plus grand magasin. Aline, le plus paraïsien. Oh, quelle foule, que de monde. Aline, le plus grand magasin de Tahiti. Aline, le plus grand magasin. Aline, le plus paraïsien. Aline.
Aline, that's very good. Now, Abba, a danser, pour moi. Dansez là, Abba. Oui, vite. Avec l'orchestre. Dansez, là. Eh bien, oui. Très bien.
I continued on down to the lagoon, where several children of varying ages were playing in the sand. They knew no English, but were anxious to learn.
Comment on dit?
Hein?
Comment?
Comment? Quoi?
On dit en anglais la chemise.
La chemise, shirt.
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 Oui, shirt.
Comment on dit le coco?
Le coco. Oh, coconut.
Comment on dit la mangue?
Le mangue, mango.
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 Répète.
Et vous?
Comment s'appelle le soulier?
Le soulier, shoe.
Chou.
Et vous?
Les dents.
Comment s'appellent les dents?
Les dents, teeth.
Teeth.
Non, teeth.
Teeth.
Et vous?
Comment s'appellent les lunettes?
Le quoi?
Lunettes.
Lunettes, glasses. Glasses, yes. Pour le soleil. Comprenez?
Comment on dit la casquette?
La casquette, cap.
Cap.
Cap, oui. Et vous? Ah, fini. Oh, pantalon. Pants. Pants. Trousers. Trousers. Traditional, not trousers. Vous. Trousers, that's right. That's very good. Et vous?
Comment on dit en anglais le nez?
Le nez, nose. Nose, oui. Et vous? Nose.
Comment on dit la robe? Comment on dit la robe?
La robe, dress. Comme ça? Dress. Yeah. Comment?
Cheveux.
Cheveux, hair. Et vous? Comment?
La montre.
Oh, watch. Non, pas watch. Watch. Ah, bon, c'est bon. Oui.
Comment on dit bébé?
Baby, oui.
Boy.
Hein?
Boy, les petits enfants.
Enfant, boy.
Boy. Girl.
Comme ça, girl, hein?
Girl, oui.
Comment on dit la fleur?
La fleur, flower. Disais.
Fleur.
Flower. Oui.
Comment on dit le cocotier? Coconut?
Oh, coconut. Oui. Comment?
Comment on dit la pirogue?
Pirogue, canoe. Canoe.
Miss.
Miss?
Non, les grandes filles comme ça. Woman?
Woman. Man, oui.
Man. Baby. Boy. Girl. Woman. Man.
Oui.
Thank you very much.
Amongst the crowd were 3 part Tahitian children, 2 boys and a girl, obviously sister and brothers. They kept to the edge of the group. They were neatly dressed and very interested in everything that went on. As I moved about, I found them following me everywhere. They were too shy to speak, but just stood and gazed at me. I decided to break the ice. I learned they could speak no English, but had begun lessons. It seems that they knew some English songs and wanted very much to sing one of them at the microphone. Intrigued as to what the song might be, I decided to record it. Their ambition achieved, they moved off wreathed in smiles. That afternoon, I called at the Mamau school and met some of the smaller pupils there.
Voilà un monsieur qui vient de Nouvelle-Zélande. Il veut que vous chantiez un petit chant. Voulez-vous chanter? Faudra bien chanter, hein? Il était un.
Ah, vous avez bien chanté. Très bien. Now, what else have we got?
Some
Who else?
poetry?
Oh, some poetry, yes. Now, who would recite for me?
Oui, Marguerite.
Marguerite?
Lève-toi. Little French girl.
Yes, Margaret, a little French girl. Oh, wait on. Come on. Now.
Mon cœur est là pour mon papa, pour ma maman, chère maman, comme je t'aime, oh mon papa.
What does that mean?
That was my heart. My heart is here for my mother and for my father. Dear mother, how I love you. How I love you, my dear father.
Now, have we anybody else to say something equally as nice? Who?
Alexander. His father is a Russian.
A Russian?
And his mother Tahitian.
And Alexander...
Yeah.
Quel âge avez-vous, Alexander?
7 ans.
7 ans, oui. And what's he going to sing?
Tu veux
recite.
Une petite poésie? Allez, récite bien.
Que suis-je? Je suis un petit enfant, toujours gai, toujours content, heureux de voir le soleil. Je chante dès mon réveil, vive, vive le soleil.
What a pretty little recitation. You tell us just what that was.
Who I am. I am a little boy, gay and always happy, who likes to see the sun. Hello, hello, the sun.
That was lovely. Now, look, there's one lad there. I'm sure he's pure Tahitian over there. Don't go near the set. Natushpa. The little boy over there, perhaps could he say something or sing something?
He can say poetry.
All right.
Papa's watch.
Papa's watch. Robert.
Lève-toi. Récite la montre de papa. Attends, viens ici.
Ici. What is his name?
Robert.
Quel âge avez-vous, Robert?
8 ans.
8 ans. And he's going to recite Papa's watch.
Yes. Comment?
La montre de papa. Tic-tac et tic-tac, c'est la montre de papa. Si appuie mon oreille, je la sonne. Oh merveille, tic-tac et tic-tac, qu'y a-t-il là-dedans? Papa l'ouvre, quel plaisir. Des roues à n'en plus finir. Pour moi, c'est chose nouvelle. Combien je la trouve belle. Je regarde sans souffler. Je voudrais être orphelin.
Thank you very much. What was that about Papa's watch?
How it was, and he wants to see inside, and he saw inside, and he thought it was wonderful. So he said, I want to be a watchman.
That's very good. Now, he's Robert, did you say?
Yes.
He is pure Tahitian, isn't he? Doesn't matter, they can talk.
He has big black eyes.
Yes, he has enormous black eyes, and he's a very good-looking child. And I think that's a fair statement to make, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Pure Tahitian. Well, thank you very much.
Here now are 4 of the older children, about 13 years of age. These girls are friends and like to sing together. They are untaught, and the harmony is their own.
Là-bas est ma maison, ma chez mon être, s'emplit de tendre amour. Ô douce maison.
That evening, I attended one of the most striking and beautiful ceremonies I have ever witnessed, the annual blessing of the tombs at Fa'a'a, a few miles out of Papeete. The ceremony is purely Tahitian. It began in the early days of the church in Tahiti, nobody knows quite how. As I approached the church on a particularly dark night, the large oblong cemetery on the slopes of the mountain at the rear was ablaze. Tens of thousands of candles looked like a great glittering cloak spread out on the black mountain. The cemetery was flanked by tamarinds and scented frangipani trees in full bloom. Countless flowers, mostly Tiori Tahiti and frangipani, but amongst them roses, gerberas, poppies, and a flower called opuhi, something like an Australian waratah, garlanded every grave and flanked every pathway. There were many crosses draped with cherry blossom and Tiori Tahiti. At the top, like a starry crown, was the brilliantly lit dais. The ceremony began in the chapel. At the conclusion of this part of the ceremony, the procession of clergy and their attendants filed out, and the faithful formed up 4 deep behind. Singing as they went, they did a complete circuit of the cemetery and then approached the dais up the central pathway. First were the acolytes, followed by small boys all dressed in white, then little girls with baskets of blossoms, then the bishop and clergy, and finally the faithful who kept to family groups. Forming around the dais and along the pathways, all faced the dais as the bishop began his address in fluent Tahitian. Each village sang a hymn led by a vahine. One of the vahines held in her arms a 3-year-old boy. He raised his eyes as mother began the chant, then snuggled into her breast and went to sleep. What's a bishop or two? Besides, this sort of thing is nothing new. It's happened before. After the benediction, I wandered among the graves. The families had by now assembled at the tombs of their loved ones. One thing stood out strikingly. There was no unhappiness anywhere. Friends were meeting friends, and it seemed as if the very spirits of the departed had returned to their families for the occasion. One sleepy child was laid down on a mat in the corner of a grave. It seemed the most natural thing to do. Wasn't she among her family and friends? To the left of the cemetery were the pagan tombs of the Chinese, buried feet first, and with no names on the gravestones. Flowers and candles are not part of the Chinese burial ceremony, but this was an exception. All the graves were decorated and lit, the Chinese community attending along with the others. Just behind the church, refreshments had been provided in canvas stalls. Later in the evening, the people left the cemetery to sing the night away in a large shelter to the right of the church. As I prepared to leave, a huge copper moon, poised just above the hill, was peeping through the tamarinds. The cemetery itself was all but deserted. But one wee girl, kneeling down, her hands joined together, had tarried to offer a last prayer before the grave of her grandparents. The Coral Route. Skyway to Oceania. One of the most interesting personalities residing in Papeete during the period of my visit was Connie Hitchcock, the internationally known writer on yachting and sea adventure. Connie Hitchcock claims to be the only grandmother captaining a ship. She has a crew of 3. I interviewed her under an awning on her tiny craft, the Makai, which means seaward. At an age when the average woman thinks of shawls and slippers, Connie is up and doing and simply bursting with a zest for life. Handsome and suntanned, and with her very blue eyes twinkling behind long lashes, she contrived to look both very feminine and very efficient. She was clad in a blouse and shorts, and her light brown hair was tied neatly at the back of her head in a ponytail.
How did you come to make this trip, Connie?
Well, for the past 20 years, long before we bought our 38-foot ketch Mackay, we have hoped to make a long cruise to the South Pacific. We have made plans, had worked toward it. We, all 3 of us, who started from San Francisco on July 3rd a year ago, held jobs until July 1st.
You resigned on July 1st and started your trip on July 3rd?
All 3 of us resigned on July 1st and started our trip on July 3rd. We had ahead of us, we knew, a 4,500-mile trip on a small boat to Tahiti. You see, our little ketch is only 38 feet deck length and 6'5" draft and 10'6" beam. And that's not very much for a seagoing vessel.
Certainly is not.
We made the long passage from San Francisco to the Marquise Islands without seeing a boat or a plane or a bit of jetsam or a sign of human beings. Often we didn't even see seabirds. We went through an extremely rough passage between the 2 trade wind belts, which is commonly known as the doldrums and frequently calm. But with us, it was extremely rough. We passed through seas, such seas as I hope never to encounter again in a small boat, that were as tall as our mainmast, which is approximately 30 feet high, and they were breaking over the crest. And for 6 days and nights, we beat hard on those seas and into that wind. We had to do it. I hated to put Mackay to it, but we had to do it unless we wanted to become permanent residents of that area, and that didn't meet with favor with any of us.
Well, now, you were in French Oceania all the time, were you?
We landed at the Marquise Islands early in August after a 37-day passage. And the Marquise, of course, are French Oceania. Our first actual landfall was the island of Nukahiva in the little village of Taioha'i. There we met with assistance from the French and very pleasant hospitality from the natives, and we stayed there for a month. After that, we left and came down through what is known as the Dangerous Archipelago, the Tuamotu Atolls.
Yes.
And in order not to be there, sailing at night, at one time we reversed our course and went backwards, so as to make a daytime landfall through the Tuamotus. We came down and stopped at Takaroa on the way down, and then came on down from there to Tahiti, landing here in September. We have stayed here during what is known as the dangerous season because there is the possibility of hurricanes during this season, but only once did we have to get off the Papeete seawall and go out on an anchor when a bad storm threatened.
Yes.
After that, we left these islands, and early in the spring, we went out to cruise the islands under the wind. which are delightful. In fact, we found all the islands delightful. We think that Tahiti is the queen of the seas, really.
And you're coming back again?
We certainly hope to come back again. We have that in mind already. We're planning it.
Good. Now, what about the rough life on a small ketch for a woman? Now, your ship is tiny. What are the dimensions?
Well, I told you, she's 38 feet
Oh, yes,
deck.
that's right. I told you. Yes.
She's 38 feet deck and not much beam, and she is a very small boat at sea. The life at sea is rough on anybody. I stood my watches 4 on and 8 off along with the boys, and I was the navigator also.
Well, now, just a moment. Where did you get your navigation experience?
I went to night school in San Francisco during the war for 5 months, 2 hours a night, 5 nights a week, and I have never regretted taking that course. I had never taken a sight until I put out to sea except from a housetop.
Same technique?
Same technique, that's right. But it is a very exciting thing when you are going to make your first landfall after many, many days at sea. I always get butterflies in my stomach. I always think, what if the island isn't there where it should be? Then where would we go on from there? Perhaps the coast of China.
Was it ever not there?
It was always there.
Oh,
but for 24 hours beforehand, I can't eat or sleep. So.
Now, have you any regrets about making this grand tour?
Regrets? Oh, good heavens, no. We hope to do it all over again.
Yes, well, thank you very much indeed. That was
You're
most interesting.
entirely welcome, Brian.
Thank you, sir.
One day, the liner Southern Cross pulled into the breastwork at Papeete. The usual large crowd of Tahitians was on hand to welcome the visitors, who were hung with leis and crowned with wreaths. 2 excursions were arranged, some going to Punavia, some to the island of Maria.
These people are marvelous to be doing this for us, don't you?
I do, and I
Yes.
think I just heard you say you'd never forget this, isn't it?
I'll never forget it because I think it's the real atmosphere of Tahiti.
That's right.
It's
and
lovely.
It's lovely, and it's
And
a bit
we're
of,
all enjoying it very, very much.
and a bit of fine presentation, isn't it?
It is, there's no doubt about that. And
Well,
thank you so
Very
much.
grand show indeed.
Very beautiful.
Something to remember.
That's right, and I'll see you at the party shortly.
Yes, good. Thank you very much.
Right.
A party of us boarded a launch for an overnight excursion to Maria. Several New Zealanders were aboard, and it was not long before we were together, reminiscing and exchanging impressions of Tahiti.
Here we are, about to depart for the very lovely island of Maria. We can see it in the distance. The peaks are just cloud-covered, but it looks very fascinating. And with me are a couple of Kiwis. I'm meeting people from all parts of the world. I'm very glad, of course, always to meet a Kiwi. May I ask where you're from?
Palmerston North.
Yes, and how do you like the trip so far?
It's wonderful. I want to come back again.
Do you? Do you find it unusual? Do you do any
Yes.
unusual things here?
It's very unusual.
Well, let's have it.
To try a little bit of underwater fishing and...
Yes. Dancing on bare feet, I'll bet you.
Yes.
Good.
And drinking till 12 o'clock at night.
Oh, certainly. That's extremely unusual. Hello, where are you from?
I'm from Palmerston North, too.
And what do you think about the trip?
Oh, I think it is really marvellous. It's out of this world, really. It's something that you should imagine, but you don't see. You
Yes,
don't come across.
And what do you expect from Maria?
Or what we've heard of it, it should be very good. In fact, we go more native there than we do here.
Yes, and I think that's a very, very agreeable thing to do. Right, thanks very much. See you, Maria.
I moved along the boat looking for any other New Zealanders who might be aboard.
Well, I'm taking the opportunity to say hello to 3 or 4 other New Zealanders who are aboard. May I ask where you're from?
I'm from Carterton.
Yes, and do you care to give your name?
Oh, yes, my name's Chappie from Carterton.
Chappie
from
Carterton, good.
I'd be well known to the police as well as anything else.
And how are you enjoying Tahiti?
I'm just loving every minute of it.
Done anything special here?
Oh, just the usual trips, and not
Yes.
nearly as much as we'd like to do in the time we have, but
Yes.
we hope to come back again.
Oh, that's very good. And may I ask where you're from?
Trethaway from Lake Tiano.
Yes, and how are you liking Tahiti?
I'm loving every moment of it. It's the most romantic place I've ever been in.
Did they crown you with leis and all the rest of it?
They've crowned me with everything but coconut.
Well, if you walk in the grove, you're apt to have a coconut full on you any time.
I expect
Good. And you, where are you from?
I'm from Windy Wellington. Something we don't get over here.
Splendid. Now, where have I heard of that place before? It's in
New Zealand.
In New Zealand, that's right.
Right.
Yes. What part of Wellington?
Miramar.
Now, would you like to say hello to anybody over there?
Well, hello, Miramar. You don't know what you're missing over here. The wind and the sun, something you'll never get.
Good. And you're from where?
Morrinsville, the Waikato.
Oh, Morrinsville. I have relations in Morrinsville. Yes, O'Brien's in Morrinsville.
Oh, yes.
You know them?
O'Brien's, yes.
What part of Morrinsville are you from?
Thames Street.
Now, yes.
Yes, just Thames Street, Morrinsville.
Well, I suppose you think Morrinsville was never like this, is that right?
Oh, no, I wish it was. We could do quite a lot of this. Just beautiful.
Yeah. And you, sir?
Oh, we arrived here by the Southern Cross about a week ago.
What's your name, Joe?
Birch. John Birch is my name.
And where are you from?
From Morrinsville.
Oh,
this is my better half here.
I see.
We're on our way to Maroya now on a launch. We expect to have a good time over there. The sun's boiling here today. We'll be a grease spot by the time, in a week's time.
Yes, so I can see you're suffering terribly.
Yeah.
With that wide grin on your face.
That's right.
Thank you.
The journey of some 15 miles completed, we came ashore for lunch at a refreshment house sheltered between palms and flowering trees. That evening, we attended a Tahitian feast on the lawn.
The table is quite a spectacle. It's just massed with all sorts of colourful-looking dishes. There's a great bowl of fruit in the middle with some strange flowers flanking the ends of it. All of us have beautiful wreaths of flowers on our heads, and there is a variety of dish here that I couldn't possibly hope to describe to you, so I'm going to see if the guests have any ideas. Who can tell me what they've been eating? What about you, sir? What do you have? Where you go?
Oh, I've had some raw fish.
Yeah.
I know that. And I haven't got a banana in my hand at the present time. I've had some pork. I've had some sort of a pickle that I don't know what it is. And I've had a sweet, which I don't know what it is. But it's all very nice. And we're all thoroughly enjoying ourselves.
Good. Anybody else? What have you been having, sir?
Well, I've enjoyed the coconut juice, and I'm very fond of raw fish. And now I'm eating a bit of breadfruit.
Enjoying it, I'll bet. Well, I'm going to get nearly on top of the table. I can't reach anybody. Hello, what have you got there?
I'm just about on the end, but in front of me I have the remains of the suckling pig, the bananas, and I still have some raw fish and something that looks like mince but is not, because it is more appetizing and done up in the delicacies that Tahiti can put in front of us all.
Well, you better remove the remains of that suckling pig then, I think. And how are you all doing down there?
Very well.
Getting plenty to eat? Too much. Who says they have too much? Anyway, it's a jolly good party. What do you say, sir?
There's still something left on the table?
Yes, but I think
you know that Tahitian they always eat from the table until nothing is left. You have to do the same thing, please.
But there's too much food and not enough us.
Oh, you're enough.
All right, we'll try and do our best. Right?
That night, we drove several miles to Cook's Bay, one of the most famous beauty spots in all French Oceania. Here we were to see a traditional Tahitian dance. The bay curved deeply inland, and a magnificent arm of sheltered water was all but surrounded by high peaks, seemingly dagger-sharp and looking like some futuristic stage set. As we approached the village, two strapping young men, stripped to the waist, met us. They were carrying huge torches, some 8 feet in height. They turned and led us towards the marae. Other young men, also carrying torches, were stationed along the route. They fell in behind the leaders. We moved along in procession, and in a minute or two we were at the marae, where all the dancers were lined up to welcome us, waving fronds and dancing to the rhythm of the drums and a nose flute. We were given seats looking along a rectangular clearing which was flanked by many blazing torches on the top of high poles. Further light was provided by several bonfires. I looked at the dancers in the deep amber glow, wreathed in flowers and wearing corn-coloured shredded skirts. They were physically more beautiful than those on the island of Tahiti itself. Men and women danced with consummate grace and impeccable rhythm, the wild, writhing, sensuous dances of old Tahiti. The night sped away all too quickly. What made it so enjoyable, apart altogether from the remarkable dancing, was the easy, smiling approach of the people, who mixed with us in a manner so unaffected and with such uninhibited friendliness that one felt all aglow inside. We left Maria with a clearer understanding why it is that so many people, some of them well-known names in the world today, come to Tahiti for a month and stay a lifetime. Of all those I spoke to in Tahiti, perhaps Garcia Palacios sums it up the best.
Mr. Palacios, might I ask, why did you come to Tahiti? Well, that's not quite an unusual question, and many people in New York have asked me the same thing, too. Maybe the answer will be a philosophical one, and a very personal one, too. I think that when a man has reached 55 years, he must look a little bit forward, and when he has worked quite a lot in all his life, he must think that at 55 he has perhaps 5 more good years to go to enjoy life and to live in a nice climate and do what he wants.
Oh, you're being a little conservative in 5 years. Go ahead.
Maybe it might last longer, but even if it lasts 2 years, I think it's quite enough for the man's life. So I had a good job in New York. I was first with the League of Nations in Geneva and then with the United Nations in New York and CBS. And I said, now it's the time to take a little rest and go to a land where you are free, where the sun shines all the time, where time doesn't count, where you don't need watches, and where you don't need umbrellas. So I came to Tahiti without knowing anyone and never having been in the country before, taking all my luggage, my car, my dog, and all my belongings, burning my vessels, as they say in French.
Yes. You have been here now 2 years. Do you intend to stay how much longer? And why?
Well, sir, I have been 2 years here, and my greatest desire will be to stay here forever. And you will say, why? What's the attraction of Tahiti? Well, Tahiti is a very simple thing. People who have never been here believe perhaps that it's another California, it's another Florida, or it's another south coast of France. No, it's something absolutely simple, and that's why I think that Tahiti is made for very young people who come here to see a brand new island in the middle of the sun of the South Pacific, or to elderly people who have had a lot from life, who have enjoyed life, traveled a lot, known people, known the weakness of man, and enjoy themselves just in the contemplation of the nature, where they can make a real resume of their life, think, write, paint, or do all the kind of work which can be done only in the quietness and the loneliness of a very wonderful landscape with the gaiety of the sun. Because I am a great believer of the sun, and I think that if you feel sometimes moody, blue, or sad, the sun is your great cure, and Tahiti gives it to you every day. And that's for me a ticket of happiness.
Yes, well, I think that the characteristic of Tahiti you might describe as a complete, unaffected friendliness. Isn't that the main characteristic?
Well, I think that the main
simplicity.
Well, I think that we have nothing to teach the Tahitians, but the Tahitians can teach us a lot of things. They live, as if I could say, under the law of the nature. That means that they follow what the nature tells them to do. For instance, if when the sun goes up, they can't sleep anymore, and they wake up. That's why they wake up very early, at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, when the sun goes up. And when the sun goes down, God tells them it's time to go to bed, so they go to bed. That's natural life, and that's where they find happiness. They do everything which nature calls them to see, and don't see any evil in anything which is natural for them. And that's, I think, is the secret of happiness. They don't work too much because they don't need to. God has placed them in a part of the world where needs are very small, and when you have all the fruits, all the trees, where the bamboo and the coconut gives you the shelter in the house. So why should they worry? And why should they work when they don't need to work? In my country, Chile, they say people who work are only those who can't do anything else.
Well, one good thing, Mr. Palacios, you can't get ulcers here through commercial worry and stress and strain and all the rest of it.
I don't only think that you can get ulcers in Tahiti, but I think if you have ulcers, they disappear.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir.
I have said that the charm of Tahiti is hard to define. Perhaps it is the sum of many things. The uninhibited friendliness of the people, the freedom and simplicity of the way of life, the glorious vistas that open up for one at every turn, the splendid climate, the sunsets, the scented nights, the stimulus provided by one of the most cultured and intellectual groups of émigrés and expatriates to be found anywhere. Tahiti is indeed all of these, but it is something else besides.